pickles.
Alright, we're going to lacto-ferment some pickles today. Lacto-fermenting is basically just using a saltwater brine and letting the lactic acid basically ferment the pickles and create lots of good bacteria. And so what I'm doing right now is just I got a whole huge bag of pickles at the market that are fresh, or sorry, mini cucumbers. They're fresh from the farm. Got them at the market, and I'm just letting them soak in the sink right now. Just let them soak for a little bit. Just if they weren't picked today, or you don't know if they were picked today, let them soak for a little while, and it'll kind of rejuvenate them before you scrub them and then toss them in the jars. So I'm letting these sit for a little bit, and then I'm going to scrub them, and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so the pickles or the cucumbers are still soaking. While that's going on, I'm just kind of got a whole bunch of garlic here, just peeling them and toss them into my jars I've already got set up here. They're all nice and clean and stuff, ready to go. So yeah, I just kind of toss a couple of garlic cloves into each jar, because I like my pickles garlicky. If you don't like garlic, put them in. But yeah, so just while they're soaking, I'm putting all the rest of the stuff in. I'm going to also put in some peppercorns and I think some mustard seed, and I got some coriander seed this time too to put in. And you pretty much use whatever you want. Oh, and I got dill as well. Got a great big bag of dill. Use whatever you want as far as pickling spices go. There's no real right or wrong, right? It's just whatever personal preference you like. Yeah, so I'll be at this for a little while because I got a lot of freaking pickles here. Alright, so pickles have been soaking for a little bit, or not pickles yet, cucumbers have been soaking for a little bit. And I got my garlic in my jars. Now I got some dill. I gave it a little rinse, and got this at the market too. I like it really dilly, so I'm gonna put lots in each jar. And I gave my pickles, or my cucumbers, were a little scrub, just a little brush. Okay, you don't need to go too hard. You just want to get off any grime or anything that may still be on them from the farm. And then I like to chop off both ends. I've heard you especially want to get rid of the blossom end, which is the one that had the flower on it, because that's it'll cause your ferment to not go so good. And I've also heard that cutting off the ends keeps them a lot crispier. So then into the jars they go, and I've already done a few jars here. But you want to make sure you jam them nice and tight, especially up at the top, because you don't want any of the pickles floating up to the surface, because air is the enemy of lacto-fermenting. So when your lactobacillia bacteria is the good bacteria that you want, and that's what makes it good probiotics for you. They stay below the water. So it's the stuff above the water that you got to worry about. So I'm just going to keep going here, chop the ends off my baby cukes and toss them in my jars. Another thing I should mention, I like using these big jars. I've heard one guy say that the bigger jars ferment better than like these are the 1.9 liter as opposed to just the 1 liter jars. Who knows? I've had success with both. I also do like the wide mouth jars because you can fit your hands in. Not mine, I got fat hands, but Lisa can fit hers in and stuff, so makes it a little nicer for that. But I'm going to keep going here. I got lots of jars to fill, and the sink's still really full of pickles, so I got a long way to go. Alright, as I finish up slicing off the ends of all these little cukes and tossing them in the jars. Something I found that works really well with these little cukes, these are like gherkin style or whatever they are, as opposed to the big ones, is save a couple of the larger ones to use at the top of the jar. You kind of wedge them in there, and they will kind of wedge in and keep everything else down, right? As opposed to having the smaller ones up top, and they'll have to float. Because remember I was saying about having the everything has to stay below the water to keep the good bacteria going and the bad bacteria out, because the bad bacteria thrive on air and can't survive under the water. So I've got those all packed up and they're nice and tight. As you can see, most of them are, you know, jammed in there really good, and a couple going lengthways across to keep everything down. I'm going to grab just some coriander seed, and you know, put as much in as you like, and you know, and I've got some peppercorns and some mustard seed. This combo I found that it works well for my dill pickles, and you know, I just toss a little bit in each jar. I don't really care about measuring anything because it's not an exact science here, or you know, it's perfectly imperfect. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going with these, and I'll be back in a minute and show you how to make the brine. Okay, so I got all my my seeds and peppercorns and stuff into my jars. Now for the brine. So you want to make up your brine using salt and purified water or filtered water. Don't use regular tap water because it's full of chlorine, and that will actually kill the bacteria you're trying to create. So use a good filtered water source. If you don't have a good source, all you have is you know, municipal water. You can boil it for a while to get the chlorine out of it. You know, it's an option, not the best, but it does work. So the other thing is we want to use salt to mix into the water. I like using the pink Himalayan salt. It's full of all the natural minerals and stuff that are you know, supposed to be in salt. You can use pretty much any salt, kosher salt, pickling salt, or you know, sea salt is another good option. It also has a lot of minerals in it, but you don't want to use table salt. It's called table salt. It's sugar, and it's iodized and bleached and everything like that. So it's not a very good option. It just won't work. So you know, you shouldn't consume table salt at all anyway. So general rules about 2 or 3 tablespoons per liter of water. Some people say to use more during the summer, and because you know, it's going to be hotter, so you don't want to, you know, to keep the bad bacteria away, and less during the winter because it's a little bit cooler. Then also with that, you know, the more salt you use, you know, as you get going with these, you can experiment a little bit more or less salt, and it'll you know, create different tastes. Some people like them really, really salty, but then also a lot of salt will you'll have to let it ferment for a little bit longer, so to get those the good bacteria. And you just want to mix it up until all the salt's dissolved here. And if you're using like a coarser grain salt, like kosher salt or something like that, you may have to heat the water on the stove a little bit in a pot. No big deal. You know, just let it cool enough to before you put it in the jars. You don't want to put boiling water in there. And yeah, so once it's good mixed up, you know, you've got your brine. Basically, you know, it's all mixed in. You can just start pouring it into your jars until you get. Okay, so after you've got all the salt stirred in, it's good dissolved into the water. You want to pour it into the jars till it's just above the top pickle. Because remember what I was saying about keeping everything below the water, and to create that good environment for the Lactobacillia bacteria. So just keep filling them all up, and yeah, just keep going with the salt and water brine mixture. You may notice I've got a lot of jars here. I did a lot of pickles. Found a sweet deal on them at the market. I love eating pickles, and you know, and drinking. Actually, I drink the water as well. That's left over afterwards. It's a lot of good bacteria, good probiotics, right? So I mean, we all need a lot more probiotics in our diet. We don't get enough of. So yeah, I try to have some with every meal. And it's a good natural way of getting the probiotics into your body. So a lot better than taking just a little pill. So I'm going to fill all these up. I'm going to keep filling up the water and brine. And yeah, after you get them all filled up, you can just leave it on the counter like that. Put a cloth over it or something to keep the bugs and the dust out. And then make sure you're checking on it every day. If you're just doing one jar or whatever, it's nice. Throw it in the corner of your counter so that it's out of the way. But you don't want it to be too cold. You want a nice warm environment for them. So if it's the winter time, it's kind of cold in your house, you can put them on top of the fridge. It's a little bit warmer up there because the heat coming off the fridge. But yeah, during the summer, like we've got right now, I just keep it on the counter. This many pickles, I might try to stuff in the back room or something like that. Yeah, until they're all done. But yeah, make sure you lift up the cloth you've got over them and check them on every day. And if there's any foam or froth floating on the top, you can scoop it off if you want, or wait till the end and just scoop it off. But what you're checking for is make sure none of the vegetables or cucumbers are floating to the surface and exposed to the air. If they are, jam it back in with your finger and cover it back up again. I usually let mine ferment for about 2 or 3 days. You can go longer. Some people go weeks. Some people go a real long time, depending on how sour you like your pickles. Yeah, so we'll come back and I'll show you, tomorrow what these are starting to look like. The water will start to get a little cloudy and stuff, and yeah, that's the good bacteria starting to form. Another little trick I did find that I did use actually the last time I made pickles, it seemed to work well, was to take a little bit of olive oil and pour it on top of the water, and it creates a little bit of a barrier on top to keep the air out. Because what's going to happen is the bacteria, good bacteria inside the jars, are going to create carbon dioxide. And you want that to be able to escape. So you don't want to be putting your lids back on your jars and sealing them up tight, because then the carbon dioxide can't escape. So you want the carbon dioxide to be able to get out, but the oxygen to not be able to get in. So tip with a little bit of olive oil on top, just enough to cover the surface of the water. Actually, it worked pretty good. So it kept the seeds, it kept everything right below the water. Last time I did some with some cauliflower and stuff. You can ferment really any vegetable you want. Yeah, so I did with some cauliflower, and they were a little bit smaller chunks, so I want to make sure they stay underneath the water. So that was kind of a good idea. I'm not sure if I'll do it with these ones or not, because I got a lot. I'm not sure how much oil I have right now, so I just leave it as is. But yeah, we'll check back tomorrow and see how these are looking. Alright. Okay guys, with our pickles, it's been more than about 36 hours or more. I just wanted to show you some of what it looks like here. I kept it covered on the counter. I checked them yesterday, and any ones that were kind of poking out, I pushed back down in, make sure they're staying underneath the brine. You can kind of see all the foam on top. That's the carbon dioxide being pulled out and being pushed up to the surface. You can scoop it off with a spoon and just toss it down the drain, or leave it and wait till the end to do it. I'm going to do it now, and make sure none of my pickles are floating to the surface and being exposed to the air. So yeah, any of them are, just kind of wedge them back in there the best you can. So, but this it's already smelling pretty awesome in here, and they're smelling really dilly. So I can't wait to try them another day or two, and they'll be good. If you want, you can taste them now to test them, see if they're done to your liking. Personally, I like to let them go for about 3 or 4 days, so I'm going to let them go a little bit longer. Alright,